What's going on, guys? Junior's Fishing Company with a Chatterbait video today. This is a Z-Man Chatterbait Evo, ½ ounce, and as you'll see in a little bit, the body was really weird, so it was a little tricky to tie on. I've got a head here that is Senyos laser dub, I think this is just purple and white. The body of this in the middle is just lavender bucktail with white, and then the tail is, I kind of found these new feathers I really like. This is a white flatwing, and then a lavender, or what does it say, pastel purple flatwing saddle, and I really like these, and they're pretty reasonably priced for 30 bucks. You get a ton of feathers, there's plenty of length in them, and I don't know if I've uploaded the other video yet, but I've been just going to town on this purple and white because I've kind of just fallen in love with it. This is a really nice ½ ounce heavy chatterbait, and I kind of just have really been liking the streamer type chatterbaits. I think this is going to swim really well in the water. It kind of looks uneven. It kind of drops off pretty good there. And you'll see why I couldn't put any bucktail back here, because there's a big lead bump that kind of got in my way. Before I tie this, like and subscribe. Leave some comments below, stuff you want to see. Let's tie this thing up. So normally, on a chatterbait like this that I'm putting these feathers, I'd put some bucktail down here to help increase some of the thickness about right here for that nice taper. But with this weird lead right here, I almost filed it down, but I decided not to. I don't know. I didn't feel like taking the time to file it down. And so, I mean, I could have tried to pinch it off too, but I just didn't really feel like messing with it. And I think if I put some deer hair here, it's going to get pushed way, it's going to flare too much because of this lead. So I'm just going to end up putting down the feathers first. So what I'm going to kind of do, and even up here, it's really weird. Like there's a little flat part here, but I'm really hesitant to put anything there because it's just going to slip down. And then there's a little bump here and here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my feathers down here. I'm going to put a stack of deer hair here and a stack there. And then I'm going to put my Senyos laser dub right in front of that last stack of bucktail. When I took this skirt off, I thought, what the heck? It's just a really weird layout. I'm not saying it's a bad layout of weight distribution or whatever. Maybe there's a good reason for this back weight, but it's going to be kind of tricky to tie around. So that's my thought. I'm going to fast forward through putting down this hackle, but I've got some longer hackle. I've probably got, I don't know, 3, 7, maybe 7 whites and maybe 6, half a dozen or so purples. Lavender, you can mix those two. But I'm going to put those saddles down first, and then we'll start working our way up. Hackles down. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to put down this lavender and this white, and I'm going to put it in pretty much as long as I can. Make sure that I don't have any loose hairs in there, because this is a pretty long bait. This is a ½ ounce, so this is, I mean, chatterbaits are usually heavier baits as it is, but I'm going to put this about as far back as I can get it, and I'm hoping I'm going to have enough room to put some flash here. But again, this body is just laid out really weird, and I know I've said this a bunch, but it's not like Z-Man made this bait to be tied on with, you know, put in a vise and tied on. And so, you know, you can't really get frustrated, so you just do what you can. So I'm going to put this right up to there, and I'm hoping I'm going to have to end up trimming this because I need all the room I can get around by the head, but that won't be too tough. So I'm going to get this spun around as much as I can, as evenly as I can. And you want to remember it's going to swim like this, so it's kind of like a jig, right? So get that combed out. Make sure it looks like there's a little thin spot, and there shouldn't really be any flare in this hair. Just a little bit, but I really don't need tons of flare in this bait because I fish chatterbait so fast anyway, everything's just going to be pushed back, so I'm not really concerned with grabbing hair from necessarily the bottom of the tail to give me a bunch of that flare. So I'm going to get this trimmed up, make a mess all over my shirt. Stuff just goes everywhere. And that'll actually add some flare to my front stack, which it's not intentional. I didn't want that, but that's just how it's going to be. So I'm going to try and get this flash down. So I've got just light purple holographic flashabou mixed with silver, and I'm just going to put a little bit on there. I'm not going to put a ton, just because I really don't need a lot of flash on this chatterbait. It's going to be plenty loud and obnoxious as it is. The flash isn't going to necessarily help me a ton. I'm going to get that down pretty long to about where my feathers go. Not quite as far. That pushed around, and I'll get that trimmed. And then I'm just going to flip this upside down and get the rest of this. Again, this is probably half a dozen strands or so, which makes it cut in half around a dozen, but I don't want a ton of flash. Get that as evenly spread out as I can. Get that tied down. I can just trim off this little excess. Get that mashed down, and then I'm just going to come up here to the front, and I'm going to put a little glue down, let that dry, and we'll get this head figured out. So I've got this last stack of bucktail. I want to be really careful putting too much on here because I still have my dubbing, and so I just really want to put this at about the length of the first stack I put. And I'm going to trim off just a little bit. I'm going to end up trimming this like I always do on 90% of the jigs I do. I'm going to trim it, but I really don't have to worry about cleaning it up or a big collar or anything like that because I'm putting down this dubbing. But I'm just going to try and get that pushed down. And again, I'm not worried about flare because I'm fishing this really fast, and the dubbing that I put down, the Senyos, is going to push all of this down anyway, and so I really don't need any of that flare. I just want to get this pushed around. It's just tricky with this weird body and this weird head. You just do the best you can to get that somewhat even. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but get that combed out, and you can see how much it's pushing up. But once I get this wet, it shouldn't do that. And once I put the dubbing down too, it should really push it down. I bought this and I had no idea what the lead body looked like, but it is really wanting to push up this hair. That's alright though. So I'm going to get this wrapped tightly around with some good tight wraps. And again, I'm not worried about a nice neat collar here because it's going to get covered up with my laser dub. So I just want to make sure that that's tight. And I'm going to quickly trim this and we'll get that dubbing down. So everything's down and trimmed as much as I really care to do it. Again, I'm going to cover this up. I just wanted to put a little clip down here because that hair is so flared. I want to make sure that I'm getting all this stuff where I want. Again, this head is just, it's got like some gill plates or something right on the side here. It's just a very unique, very uniquely laid out chatterbait. I'm going to get this Senyos dub. This is just purple and white. I'm going to get it pretty evenly out there. And I'm going to put it just, I'll just do 50-50. I really don't care much about 60-40, or maybe I'll pull this a little bit out of my head. Just a little bit. And I can get that tight down and get it spread out. Don't wrap it around your blade. Maybe get another nice wrap down here just to make sure. You want to make sure that it's down. And I'll even out this and put this on what's going to be the top of my bait. But this covers up all your ugly trimming and stuff. Get that as well down as I can. I just want to make sure that it's even, but it's really gonna, the colors are so similar, it's gonna blend in really well, I hope, to my other materials. I'll lift that back, and I want to work around my head. And I gotta work around these weird notches that just are for pattern, I'm guessing, or something. Now get all that pushed back. And I'm kind of running out of room here. I gotta email Z-Man, tell him to make me a chatterbait that I can tie on. So that should be good, because again, I'm running really short on room here. Just want to make sure all that's down. But yeah, so I'll kind of just half hitch this. I don't want to whip finish over any of my materials. And then I'm just going to get this combed out. The Senyos is pretty short, which I like. I don't want this dubbing to go too far back into my bait, just to cover up what I've spent all this time putting down. But if you pull it back, it might be a pretty wide bait in the front, just again with that bump. But a little streamer, lavender and white, 1/2 ounce Z-Man chatterbait. I love white. I love to throw white, so, but this purple really, I just really like this purple. The purple in the Senyos matches pretty closely to that lavender, but the feathers and the deer hair really almost were identical. So like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Junior's Fishing Company. See you on the next one.